It's Team Caitlin Jones versus Team Callie Moore in a battle of 1 versus 2 here from the Lakeshore Curling Club in Lower Sackville, Nova Scotia. It's the 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Championships on Bell 5 TV 1. My name is Dan Hobson, and I'm joined here along for the broadcast by Bill Fletcher. Of course, he's the head coach of the St. Mary's University Curling Team, Level 3 coach, and has been to 9 nationals with the St. Mary's Huskies. Delighted to have you, Bill.
Glad to be here.
Yep, the hardware's in the building here. Jones has gone undefeated so far, 5-0, and it will be Moore that will have the hammer here in end number 1, throwing the yellow stones. And it is a big task here for Callie Moore. Has to pretty well, if she wants to win the junior championship, has to win 3 against Jones, and this is the first one. And they're hoping the first of 3, but it's going to be easier said than done. Let's get your thoughts on this one as the first stone comes in.
You'll probably find that both teams are going to find what happens on the ice. Early in, you may find them put them in the rings to say, go and hit it. I watched the earlier game with Callie, and that's sort of her modus operandi. So we'll see what's happening. Here you go, you got a hit, and we can trade some hits so we get used to the ice and see how it's happening, what's happening with the rocks. So I expect they're going to be quite tight. The Jones team is looking to put it away tonight. And of course, Callie's looking at, well, we can win this. That gives us some momentum going into the next game and then the next game. So I've had teams that have been in the same position.
Yep, they just pretty well have to take it one game at a time there for the Callie Moore Foursome. And of course, the Callie Moore Foursome is at a CFB Curling Club. As we take a look at their skip, Callie Moore, their lead is Kate Fitzgerald, second Cassidy Curry, third Taylor Stevens, and they're coached by Rob Moore. And of course, their goal was to try to, get as far as they can here at these championships. And talking to their coach, Rob Moore, they've pretty well exceeded their goal, and pretty well their goal was to be number 2 here and to be in this game. So hats off to them, and they're one of the younger teams here at the championships. So that's the task that they have.
They're still Canada Games age too, so they still have the Canada Games process to go through to represent Nova Scotia at the Canada Games. Now, at least 3 of the teams that were here competing were our Canada Games age, so they usually meet each other on the circuit.
So as we take a look here at Team Caitlin Jones, of course, Lindsay Burgess is the lead, the second Carly Burgess, Kristen Clark the third, and Caitlin Jones, coached by Andrew Atherton out of the Halifax Curling Club. Defending champs from this event, have a couple of new team members. Of course, new is Lindsay Burgess, as well as Caitlin Jones, Emily Lloyd, and Janique LeBlanc. No longer on the team, but of course, what's up for grabs here for Carly and Kristen is a chance once again to represent Nova Scotia at the Junior Curling Championships in Shawinigan. And they are, of course, going to be held January 13th to 21st. So lots up for grabs here in this one. And the start here for both of these teams is pretty well what we expected. Not much going on in terms of offense yet. A little bit of a feeling out process. Let's take a look at Carly here, the second. Nose hit and a little roll to the wings. Moore are going to try to get it out the rest of the way, and we'll spin back and be a little bit of a biter. So if you were coaching a young team like this, Callie Moore, and you were playing a team that's like Caitlin Jones, that's pretty well has been undefeated, run the table so far, what would you be saying to them as a coach here? Play aggressive, or keep less rocks means less trouble?
They have to be patient. That's the biggest thing. With most of these teams, when you take a look at their technical skills, they can all throw a rock. And so a lot of it comes down to their mental strength, their physical. This is the this is a long time to be curling. And saw the game today with Nottingham. What happened is they just ran out of steam. And I've had some of my own teams that do that, just being physically ready to go and being able to play in these long draws. The Jones team is well prepared. They've gone into the big spiels and they've done really well. They went to the Ottawa Valley, which is an imitation spiel, and you have to have some sort of pedigree to get there. And if I remember correctly, I think the Matthew Manuel team and the Jones team actually won, which means you were playing against some of the best teams in Canada and from Europe. Is to get the European teams that come over, but it's by invite only.
The third rocks here is Taylor Stevens, and that is a name that's pretty familiar in the curling circle, as she is the daughter of Chad Stevens. Chad Stevens we will see in a couple of weeks at the Dartmouth Curling Club as he tries to go and punch his ticket towards representing Nova Scotia at the Brier. One of 8 teams contending for that, and we'll have the coverage here in Bell 5 TV1 for that one. So, of course, they removed all doubt and got that blue stone that it was debatable whether it was either in the rings or if it was on the outside. So now, of course, they've eliminated that from any option. And another one from Clark on the way here in end number 1. Burgess girls going hard here on this rock, and it will come to a stop, and now they sit 2 there in the later stages of end number 1. Moore has the hammer here in 1. Getting into the skip rocks here with this second throw here from Stevens. Throws a stone and gets rid of the blue at the back for the double. A big shot there by Taylor Stevens of the CFB Curling Club to lie 1. Really, it's a big shot there from Stevens, and sometimes, you could talk about how important the third position is. Like the skips are the one that everybody seems to, to be the one that will bail them out. But these days, with the sport the way it is, thirds are important. So it's definitely going to be an interesting battle here with thirds of Taylor Stevens versus Kristen Clark. Of course, the world and national champion Clark versus Stevens, the young up-and-coming third here with the CFB Curling Club.
Well, both of them can throw well mechanically. And one of the things you'll find with Kristen is very comfortable throwing that up weight. And to be able to run things back, what will happen is in the later ends, they'll get the staggers on those. They won't set them up so they're right directly in line so that you can get those angle rays and take back and clean out. The fact that they got the double just simplifies this end for them. So right now they're probably playing towards the blank. They don't need to score. It's early, 10-end game. So, long way to go.
Pretty well a good start, and they coming in, and with a young team like this, they're really happy to be here in this spot right now in the spotlight here, knowing that pretty well they are the ones that stand in the way of the Jones team winning their 5th provincial championship, of course, with team members, of course, departing, but 2 longtime seniors in Carly Burgess and Kristen Clark still with the team. So they are basically a team that, they got off to a little bit of a slow start going, losing their first one to Kaylee Notting 11-9 and came back with a bounce-back win over Isabel Ladouceur 9-4. And then, of course, faced Caitlin Jones, and they got down early on that one, came back, but they could not able to defeat Team Jones 8-5 and back-to-back wins. So the thing is, maybe they're starting to feel a little bit better, feel comfortable more with the ice, and also basically, have a little bit of momentum here coming into this game as we're into the skip rocks here in 1. Caitlin Jones has basically lived in 5 different provinces, so she's pretty well halfway there, going all the way across Canada. Empty house right now here for Callie Moore. Pretty relaxed team, wouldn't you say, Bill? If you look at some of the facial expressions there on this team, Callie Moore.
Well, they've done a lot of work, and Rob's got them ready to go into Canada games, so it's dealing with that mental toughness and how to deal with adversity. And if things don't go the way that we necessarily get them planned to, then that's all right. They're able to bounce back. They don't lose their focus on what needs to be done. Here, what happens is they playing that clean end, and everything is through. So we'll start over, see what happens in the next end. I anticipate that they're going to see another relatively clean end in the second end.
Moore with the blank here in 1, so carry that over into 2. Of course, we have other action taking place. On sheet C, we have Team Abraham taking on Team Emmanuel, and Vince Williams and John Seidman have the call for that one. And we'll be passing out updates throughout the night. Lindsay Burgess here in 2. Rock on its way. Of course, everybody who is in the sport of curling knows the rules, but we have some people that may be tuning in for the first time and getting a chance to watch these junior championships. There's 38 minutes of thinking time. Each team have 2 timeouts, and it is a 4 free guard zone, 4 rock free guard zone. So anything in front of the house cannot be removed, but that went a little bit deeper. So now the Moore team will make a play on the one just thrown here by Lindsay Burgess. Kate Fitzgerald will remove the blue-handled stone, and the shooter goes as well. So you are pretty good, because right now it looks like that we're going to be in for another clean end here, and end number 2 based on that. So we'll see if Lindsay puts this in front or brings this in.
This one looks a little bit lighter. It should be out in front.
Yep, putting it into the brushers' hands of Burgess and Clark here. And we'll come to a stop right on the center line area. And folks, Bill brought his stopwatch so he could basically even every once in a while give us a little update on how the ice is running.
If you're a coach, you never leave home without it.
It's basically almost just like making sure you have brooms and a stopwatch, and you don't need anything else. That guard's coming up there, so will they get by it? Yes, they will. And they'll come around and tuck around into that blue stone. They will sail towards the back and stop in the 8-foot area and come out the other side.
So I had a hog-to-hog of about 14 and a half on that. When they did the opening draws for Shot Rock, they were sitting somewhere around 15-2, 15-3. And that would be to the tee line. So
Burgess there with a bit of a roll, removing the yellow stones. Back 8 once again. So we'll see Cassidy Curry make a play on this one. And the sweeper's right on it. Fitzgerald and Stevens, as soon as it comes right out of her hand, trying to go for the line, trying to hold the shot here. Pretty confident in it, and they've let off on it. Nose hit. Little bit of a roll. Will it roll too far outside? No, we'll stick around there in the back 12. Just hanging on. The spin coming back. So pretty well teams matching hits here in this second.
It's a tough place to hit when you're out there in the outside 12. Most teams don't practice playing hits out there, and as a result, what happens when you get game situations, it's a little bit more difficult to make those hits, so it's a good thing to see.
Nose hit, little roll towards the center line. And Moore quickly puts the broom down, and once again, Curry pretty well repeat of the previous shot for her. As the teams sort of play a little bit of chest here, back and forth with the same shots. Nose hit. And a cheering contingency. Big fans here for both teams here, Moore and Jones. Making it a little bit more louder than it has been for pretty well most of the week so far. But talking to some of the curlers, they love sort of that atmosphere where it gets a little bit noisier, sort of makes things a little bit harder in terms of communication, but they love performing in front of a crowd because they are there at ice level. Clark here in two, all by itself, and rolls out.
I know when my team qualified for the Canada Games in 2007, we would practice on an end sheet, and we get the parents to come out and yell at their kids, just as a distraction for them. Because what happens is when you go to some of those events, there's just a curtain down the side, and the fans are right on top of you. Some of them aren't saying nice things.
Well, exactly. That's all of a sudden you go and you play these cash spiels over the weekend, and they don't have the seating area down at the ice level, so it's not something that you're accustomed to, so you might as well get them used to the atmosphere that they're going to play in, so that when they get there onto the big stage, it's no big deal.
Oh, very much so. We had bells, we had horns, we had whistles, and the parents would jump up and down and scream and make as much noise as they could to distract them, and this was our practice.
Well, how did you get the parents to do it?
Oh, they didn't mind yelling at the kids.
Well, just almost like a normal, ordinary day at home then, I guess.
Exactly. Right, they knew what the purpose of it all was, but it was a matter of just going out and practice and trying to keep their focus.
It's great to have you aboard here, Bill, and glad to have your expertise and, of course, coaching, and that it just fascinates me that you did that, and that's really smart on you to get them used to that, so glad you could join us here for the broadcast here and what could be a provincial championship here for Team Jones as they bump that yellow stone out, and the blue gets a roll over. As you see, pretty well easy open hit here for the Callie Moore team out of the CFB Curling Club. Now, you mentioned that about the Canada Games team. Talking to Rob Moore before the game, he says that's their goal. They want to get there.
Yeah.
And boy, there's whatever the result is when it's said and done after the end of this one here. Whether they play another one or they comes to an end tonight. Definitely a great experience, and they're giving this Jones team a run for their money.
You need to play against the strong teams. That's the only way you get better. Because if you're out playing against teams that are weaker, and if you're running the score up on them, you're not learning as much. And going out and learning from those who have been to the show, and it's important for you. Part of we always talk about going out and who are your reference people. For me, what happened was we curled out of the Mayflower, and we had Colleen Jones' team. I can't say enough about Kim Kelly and Nancy DeLahan because they were absolutely fantastic in helping me getting my team ready to go. And it's one of these things that you've got the Jones team, and most of them have been to the Worlds, and they've been to the Nationals, and you learn from them, and you learn from some of the things that they do, and you see how they carry themselves out on the ice, and that's important for them.
Jones,
learn a lot from the strategy too when you start looking at moving the rocks around, playing there.
Jones was trying to get in behind that blue center line guard, and it sailed out to the other side, so they'll go change of plans here and switch to the other side of the sheet here as we're in Skip Rocks here in end number 2.
You never want to give the skip the same shot twice.
Well, absolutely.
They won't miss two times in a row.
Or even any of these players, but yesterday, the LaFour Sweeney game, there was like 4 times before they were allowed to remove the stones. The teams were sort of missing shots back and forth and over curls and overthrows, and not going to see that in this team with these two teams. These two teams are pretty solid, and you could hear that they get a piece of it holding the line, and the shooter goes as well. So now Jones has a chance here to go in behind cover. Try to force Callie Moore into taking a single here in 2. But as you see, lots of open ice here. And only one blue-handled stone in play. Looking at some of the way Caitlin Jones' team has played, she started off the championship here with a 9-4 win over Stephanie Carson of the Windsor Curling Club. Then defeated Kaylee Notting 10-3 out of the Bridgewater Curling Club. They faced Moore in the third game and came away with an 8-5 victory. So second time they're going to meet here at the championships. And then again facing Kaylee Notting. 5-4 was a score. Very defensive at the end of that one. And over Isabel Ladder-Slore 8-6. Hoping that this will dig in, so at least Moore will have a play. It will, as it will go back 8 along the center line. So for the meantime, they lie 1.
They're just looking at to see what the best angle is, or whether they want to draw, or whether they want to try to pick it out. It looks like the ice that they're giving, they're going to draw in. They might be forced to take 1.
Definitely the safe approach. They don't. A lot of the story here so far has been the team's ability to steal. Notting was doing very well in the championships, of course, and she has stole a combination of about 9 points in the games that I covered. And we were talking off air that was a team that just ran out of gas a lot of games in a short amount of time. And, they could have easily been here after having the start that they did. And as you say, the runs out of gas. And as we're into the final stone here in end number 2, Team Callie Moore out of the CFB Curling Club. Second ranked in the province by the guard, as you see. He'll bump that blue one back and take her single point. She'll relinquish the hammer to end 3, 1-0 after 2 ends of play. So now you got to think maybe all of a sudden now with Jones having hammered that definitely going to see some corner guards here put up and probably see maybe a little bit more in terms of stones. Is that what you think is going to happen?
I think so. What happens is we've got 2 ends in. We know what's happening in terms of the ice. We've got the feel for the ice. We know what draw weight is. So depending on what the Moore team does, if they put one up on the center line or if they put one in the house, then it's going to be up to the Jones team to figure out whether they want to get aggressive or whether they want to play defensively.
Kate Fitzgerald, the 15-year-old, 9 years of experience, 2017 Under-18 Nationals, 4th place in Canada, Under-18 Provincial Champion, Provincial Junior Doubles Champion, and 2016 Under-15 Provincial Finalist, and 2014 Under-13 Provincial Finalist. putting together a pretty good resume for her. She's new to this team, but she's getting a chance to, of course, curl with her cousin Carly. Lindsay Burgess, the 18-year-old out of the Halifax Curling Club, has been in this sport for 10 years. She's a first-year Bachelor of Engineering student at the Dalhousie University, 2014 Under-15 champion. And when she's not at the curling club, Bill, she likes to run track and play soccer.
She is a soccer nut, that's for sure.
So she could probably do some of those nice little foot tricks there when they're warming up, bouncing the ball off the foot and everything. And
you don't want to do that at the curling stone.
No, very much. You're not speaking from experience. You never kicked a stone, have you?
Yes.
Yes, you have. Okay. And did you immediately get a medical attention afterwards?
I regretted it, as many of us have.
Yeah, you speak of that. Sokolic there, he really hammered one of those stones, and I was like surprised that he didn't break a toe. This will stop. Back four to be lying two here.
But you notice that the Jones team put up that center line guard, or the corner guard, and as a result, what happens is now they have an opportunity to be able to put rocks in behind cover. So from the indication so far, it looks like they're going to make the move for their deuce. If that's not going to work out, then a blank is quite acceptable.
Not a brush laid to hiss there by the veterans here of Carly Burgess and Clark, but nice little shot as she bounces off one and removes the yellow stone. The shooter goes as well. Actually, yellow does stick to the side of the 12-foot. Cassidy Curry here, the 15-year-old, been doing this for 9 years. 16 years of age, 18 years of experience. The Under-18 Nationals, 4th place in Canada. Under-18 provincial champion. Under-16 provincial mixed champion. So many provincial finalists. Under-15 in 2016, Under-15 in 2015. And in 2014 was Under-15 provincial finalist. A pretty decent curling resume. And the thing, Bill, she's not done.
No, we start them at a relatively young age. Some clubs have an age limit. I know when I looked after the junior program at Mayflower, I just asked them if they were heavier than the rock. And if they were heavier than the rock, then what happens is, as long as their interest is there, we could deal with them on the ice. And that's all you wanted. I had little rockers that come out in snowsuits that spun around on the seat of their pants. And people, and parents would come like, well, why do you let them do that? This is because they'll get bored. And once they get bored, they'll start doing these other things.
So do you think that you and I, after we're done here, maybe we'll get on one of those rocks and I'll spin you around, you spin me around?
Yeah, that's the reason we do stick curling now.
I guess that's a no, folks.
Just kind of dug in hard.
Actually, I'm coaching the one of the wheelchair teams this year. And I spare for them on Thursday nights. And so we use all the wheelchair curling rules, even though I'm not in a wheelchair. But all I do is I use the stick and I throw a rock. And there's no sweeping in wheelchair curling.
Yep, he's won 3 nationals with the provincial wheelchair curling teams. Carly Burgess, 19 years of age. Dalhousie University Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology. Quite a resume, of course, pretty well known. World champion. And that was with Mary Fay back in 2016, the same year that they won the Canadian Championship. So 2 of the 4 members here wanting to win a 5th provincial championship here. And she is one of them. Taylor Stevens, as I mentioned earlier, she's the daughter of Chad Stevens, 17 years of age, 9 years experience, 2016 Under-18 Atlantics bronze medal, Under-18 provincial champion, U15 provincial champion, 2015 Under-15 provincial champion, as well as the Under-16 mixed champion, and in 2014 an Under-18 provincial champion and Under-15 provincial champion. So a lot of championships. Chad Stevens, her father, no slouch, as I mentioned, been to the the Tankard a lot. So could you imagine all that hardware in the front of your living room? Maybe you have to have your own Stevens Hall of Fame.
Well, exactly.
Hall of Fame of curling. Charge everybody $2 to $5 to come see the thing. Man, you'd have your mortgage paid just like that. Nose hit, removes the Yellowstone. A little slight roll there for the Caitlin Jones team.
You get a lot of history that's out there in terms of parents that curled. Now the kids are doing it. And some of them, you take a look at it, it's their grandparents that actually were curlers. You take a look as it goes down through the generations, and there's lots of families that are here in this province.
Yeah, it's like
it all adds up.
Yeah, the Weagles in the boys category, the Burgesses, of course, Peter Craig here in attendance.
Right up to Grandpa Jim.
Yep, Jim in here as well.
Kurt, he coached Meredith Doyle to the Worlds. And you take a look at it. Those are some of those curling families. The Camerons. You've met Stu Cameron, who coaches the manual team. I can't tell you the number of times that he was to the bar. So you get this, and now his grandson is curling for him. So you look at these curling families, and at Mayflower it used to be the Harris family. Right?
Definitely a family game for sure, as we just seen the throw there by Kristen Clark. This, of course, has the potential to be her final junior game, as she's going to be moving up to the women's ranks next year is her goal. So some of these women's teams that may be looking for a third or maybe looking for a member, Kristen Clark will be available as she finishes her junior career, and she hopes that she could actually attend the Nationals to do that, and then of course the Worlds. She's already got one world title, would like to put another trophy on the shelf.
She'll have no problem finding a team.
I don't think so. Callie Moore with her first year in number 3. Nose hit. Clark and Jones will take a good close look, but of course anything that's really too close, it could be a biter. Of course, could be in. So I'm not going to take their chance and make sure to make a play on it.
I think that's biting the front 12. And what happens is, if you're not going to have the opportunity to score the deuce, you might as well just take it out, and we'll start over for the next end.
These teams, of course, well coached. Rob Moore, who's also been curling for quite a while too. We talked earlier about being a family sport. Rob, the father of Callie. Not much being done here by the front end. Now a little light scrubbing here by Carly. Nose hit, and we'll get a little bit of a roll. Maybe it will get that extra turn and come back in, but no, it will come and just stop shy. But they're going to take a close look at it. A couple of close ones here so far that are on the outside looking in. One more will make a play on it and probably remove all doubt anyway, so why begin a debate if it's going to be not much of a point?
I actually met Callie when she was probably 8 or 9 years old, and we were short a player, and she actually spared for us. And she only came up to the other players' shoulders, and she was just in awe of everybody else. And you go like, because she was always at the curling club because she had an older brother that curled, and so she was always the one that was in tow. So we had a player that went down, and so she spared for us. She did a great job. And it looks like she's still doing a great job.
Great job, and we said earlier their goal is to go to the Canada Winter Games, and hits that blue stone and rolls it in. So now, of course, the Jones team will have to make a play on it, and a fantastic resume there, Bill. 2014 was an under-15 provincial finalist, 2015 provincial finalist, and 2015 mixed finalist, Campbell under-15 champion. So, finalists once again, 2016 under-15 and under-16 provincial mixed finalists. You know, quite a resume here. And under-18 nationals, 4th place in Canada. That's nothing to sneeze about if you're the 4th best in this country. Big weight being thrown here by Jones here. Last rock in number 3. Removes the rock. The shooter will go out, so blank here in 3. Still 1-0 more over Jones.
Yeah, I think last year the U18 was the first time that they held a national for the U18. Prior to that, what happened was out west they had what they called the Optimist. That was sponsored by the Optimist Club, and that basically became a U18 competition. And they invited 4 international teams into that competition. So it's good to see them coming down to that U18, because this is where all your development comes from, being able to compete at those higher levels and compete at least quite often at those levels. You'll see some of these kids go up and start competing against the grown-ups. And the kids are in great shape, and the rest of us aren't.
Yeah, the sport has definitely changed. Like, one of the things that we've heard talk about is what the sport was back in the 80s versus what it is now, the amount of gym time. Of course, also the amount of commitment.
Especially at this level.
Very much.
Whereas you used to have the club curling and you used to be able to smoke out on the ice.
Yeah, I've heard that story.
I'm old.
I've heard that about, like, Ed Wernick. I never knew that. Like, I've heard the name, and I've seen him curl probably once before he...
Eddie Wernick used to chew the straw from out of the brooms. And I remember competing in Toronto, and what happened was we were playing our game, and Eddie Wernick was on the next sheet of ice playing his game, and if we did the same thing, we were going to have the opportunity to play Eddie Wernick. Well, he upheld his end of the bargain. We didn't.
It's funny how that works out.
Right. Oh my gosh! But it gives you an opportunity to play against some of those high caliber teams to really appreciate the talent that they're putting on the ice. You watch these girls and the consistency that they have in terms of delivering the rock. They would out-curl any club, like a club team. It's not until people start getting serious about some of this stuff that they get that consistency in terms of where they're going to compete. I think the thing went out with the Nova Scotia curling about Isabelle Ladouceur qualified for this provincial Scotties. Well, prior to that, they didn't allow the younger teams. You had to be in your last year of junior if you were going to be competing in the men's or the ladies' provincials. So it's a good opportunity. They just took the age bracket off it, and she was good enough to qualify. But there's so many things that these kids have going on. You take a look at this, you take a look at the Jones team, and they're going to have this if they win this, and then they're going to have the nationals. Some of them are going to be back for AUS, and AUS is in February. And if they qualify coming out of AUS, they got to go to Edmonton. Between qualifying in terms of at the juniors, you got the Worlds, and I have seen players have to leave the university nationals early because there's an overlap in terms of the Worlds and the universities. But that's just how much time they're spending.
And you as a coach knowing that, because the St. Mary's Huskies, you think you have your team all lined up, and then all of a sudden you may have a player that has to, play another purpose,
Oh.
I guess you could maybe, if you want to address that, kind of the
When you get
last
to
minute scrambling that you have to do for that.
When you get to the university, there's also a thing called exams. And sometimes what happens is exams get scheduled at the same time. And I know I've had to invigilate an exam while we're away. It was a little bit easier for me because I work at the university as well. Right, so what happened was I undertook that I would invigilate an exam, and while we're away, I invigilated an exam for one of my players. But I've done that in terms of some of my students. I had a student who was playing in the CFL that was down at a training camp down in Florida and had to send an exam down to them to write when they're there. But that's what it is to be a student athlete. And you take a look at the time that these kids are spending on the ice, but it shows.
We have a men's game on sheet C with Vince Williams and John Siteman. Right now it's 1-1, Manuel and Abraham as they play into 3. Took a little bit of discussion here with this one here for the team. Caitlin Jones, Carly Burgess, bumper blue one, and sitting 2, and with a little bit of protection too. So
We've
as
got
they
a few
say,
more rocks in play now.
yeah. I was going to say, game on.
Yeah.
Here we go. And the thing with the Caitlin Jones team, they could also shut it down, because they did a lot of shutting down pretty well in the game against Kaylee Notting. Shut things down pretty well from the 7th end on.
Yep.
So don't often see that these days with the way that the offense is in the sport, but as Moore's team will pick one of those blue out, open things up there, but shot rocks belonging to Caitlin Jones, who has hammer here in 4. Now the thing is, they want to pick that yellow one out, but don't want to lose what they got.
This is where weight and line is really important, because they can hit that on an angle and save their shooter, but it also means it's going to expose that rock that's on the bottom.
You can hear that they're going hard here. See the intensity of Burgess in the background. And a nice shot, and they just moved that blue one, but just like that, they're sitting 3-2 in the back 4. You know they're close when they're that intense. You know that as a coach, and pretty well players and fans here at the Lakeshore Curling Club knew that they were really close to that shot, and only really moved that blue zone maybe about a couple centimeters. A big-time shot from a big-time team.
Now the issue, though, becomes that those 2 rocks are behind the tee line.
Freezable.
Then it's quite freezable. But when you take a look at what they're doing, is it looks like they're coming in and trying to double them out and ignoring what the long-range plans need to be. But it could be that they don't want many rocks in play.
If you know that a team is really good at offense, why would you want to go, toe-to-toe with them? So look at that, nice little shot and a freeze to boot. Boy, this is going to be a dandy.
Based upon that ice, they're going to bring it.
Going to bring the heat here. Coach Fletcher has the stopwatch in hand. Kristen Clark here in 4. Now the Burgess ladies get together. Front end brushing it. They pick the yellow out. And they'll push the yellow towards the back, so the shot rock still belonging to Jones here.
It's a 920 that she threw on that, so that's an up weight. one of the things about Kristen is she can throw the up weight, and her mechanics are still strong.
We said earlier, going to be a battle of the thirds. Taylor Stevens versus Kristen Clark. Stevens definitely holding her own, and she says, well, anything you could do, I could do better. She goes with a little bit of up weight here. Moves the blue stone and doesn't get to the shot rock here, so Jones looking okay here to possibly get a deuce here in 4. Thing for Callie Moore's team, yes, she has 3 rocks in the house, but she's not the shot rock. Talk about the art of communication here, and they're going back and forth up the sheet there, so really discussing what you feel comfortable doing as we take a look here at Kristen Clark here as we're into third stones in number 4. Low scoring affair so far, 1-0 more over Jones. You could hear Clark yelling hard, and the Burgess girls, Lindsay and Carly, are going hard. And they'll get a nice little roll to sit 2. Boy, the shot making is perfecto here for both of these teams. This is where the maturity of this team is going to be tested here when they, try to match shot for shot with a juggernaut of a team known as Caitlin Jones. Provincial, national, and world champions Clark and Carly Burgess there. As we're going to be seeing Callie Moore make her way up the ice here for her first of 2 skip rocks. Not a bad crowd on hand here at the Lakeshore Curling Club. A few more seats available ice level. But if you're planning on attending, come on by. Make sure you actually pack up a nice little blanket because I hear it's cold down there.
Traditionally, the ice shed is somewhere around 4 to 5 degrees.
And don't even think about bringing one of those block heaters and trying to plug it into an AC outlet. No. Don't even do that. You have to bundle up. Always get a kick of watching some of these outdoor hockey games, and it's like -20 and snow's falling down and everything like that. No snow falling down, but pretty well the same sort of feel to it. Well, they remove one of the blues.
That's how I grew up playing hockey. It was the outdoor rinks.
Well, while we're on this topic, they've have outdoor hockey games again now. Aren't you some lucky that they don't have outdoor curling anymore? Man, oh man, that would be really tricky, like ice conditions, snow falling.
Nancy Dillahunt showed me some pictures from over in Switzerland where they had sideboards that would come out, and they curled out there, and you looked out and you had the vistas of the mountains right in the background. It was so distracting. They had wall panels that they just virtually took down. And I remember for the centennial celebrations for the Mayflower, they were talking about putting ice surfaces in on the commons, and they were going to put some ice in there. But even I think it was Fredericton. Fredericton put a sheet of ice in when they had the Worlds.
Interesting stories. Of course, they've been around the sport for a long time. And goes to yellow and gets a little bit of a roll. They don't want to roll too far. And look at that, they freeze to that yellow one, so they sitting 2 right now with Hammer here in 4. Moore getting ready to throw her last one. As Callie Moore and Taylor Stevens talk this out. Stevens going to take a little bit of a look-see.
Well, she's made up her mind. They're going to be resolved that they're going to give up 2.
Well, I mean more as she's actually wearing Stevens' jacket right now because she had the Patriots hoodie on to start, so.
So what happens in here is they're playing the one where there's a guard out in front and trying to hit the edge of it, and they're going to spill their shooter out, which is probably one of the more difficult ones. If they take the open hit, then what happens is you lose those 2 that are at the back, and it's a much easier shot. So from my perspective, and I would talk to my players about that, is look, if you're going to give up 2, take the easy shot. Don't try the hard one. Because I don't think that they can get a hit and stay. But if you hit the guard, or if you completely go by, then what happens is you're really not helping your cause. So you resolve the fact that you're going to give up the deuce. I would have hit this one that was over here and sat my shooter right there. Now she made it, so you know it's all academic from this point on. But you take the easy shot and let the other team take the hard one.
Jones, as you saw, made her way up the ice here. Getting ready here for her final stone and in number 4. Looking to take the lead for the first time in this game. Moore, as you see, blanked the first and took a single in second. And a blank in third. As the throw, it's on its way. And you can hear that they're already screaming and they're going hard. Lindsay Burgess, Carly Burgess, out of the Halifax Curling Club, trying to go hard here. Clark holding the broom and Jones calling line. And they are going to get it there, and you can hear their cheering contingency. The big fans here of Caitlin Jones as they get the draw there for 2 to take a 2-1 lead as we head to N5.
They worked hard for that one.
Yeah, definitely give a little bit of bonus there for Lindsay and Carly Burgess on that one. It pretty well right out of her hand. We're right on top of it. And dragged it there to get the second shot in there for their deuce in 4. So now you got to wonder here if you're the Callie Moore team, is this all of a sudden, you know, you had a game plan where you're keeping things clean, and now with the lead that Jones has, Jones can really, you know, basically sort of say, well, this is the type of game that we're going to play. Is this going to be really hard for the Callie Moore team to, you know, keep up shot for shot, pace for pace with this Caitlin Jones team?
This will fit right in with their game plan. What happens is they got the hammer back. Right? So now they're going to play for their deuce. Right? That's going to fit into the game plan. Even if, you know, if they get their deuce here, what happens is they're coming in on the break, they're up 1. If they only get 1, then what happens is now they're tied after 5. Right? They get together with the coach and talk about what's going to go on in the next half of the game. So when you take a look at the plans of things, that, you know, they played some clean ends, and when there were opportunities that they could take advantage of, they took advantage of them. You know, sometimes when you get up at this caliber, or when you get up into the adults, one shot makes the difference between winning and losing. You know, one little hit and roll, one, you know, you're on the wrong side of the inch. And that's the difference sometimes between that winning and losing.
Updating our game on sheet C. Blanks in 3, so still 1-1. Team Abraham versus Team Manuel in men's competition. So we've got a great night of curling coming your way, and things are pretty tight. Can't ask for anything more on a Saturday night here from the Lakeshore Curling Club. It is the 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Championships. on Bell 5 TV1. My name is Dan Hobson alongside Bill Fletcher and our producer, Chuck Calder, gladly bringing this one to you. These teams, of course, number 1 and number 2 in the Nova Scotia Junior Curling standings. Jones 1, Moore 2. So not a surprise that they have gotten this far here into these championships. 6 teams started play on Wednesday. And now these 2 teams are the last ones standing. Moore having to win out. She has a 3-2 record. You get that 3rd loss, you're done. So pretty well she has to win 3 against Jones. Jones so far undefeated. A big hill to climb for this young team out of the CFB Curling Club. And you could hear the front end needing to go hard on this one. The wicked curl here and come to a rest, and staggered guards there, long staggered guards. Jones will just ask Carly to bring this one into the rings and trying to force Moore here to take a point here before the 5th in break. You could hear Jones there saying, hurry hard, go for line, and they are going hard. The sweepers, of course, earning their pay here on the Caitlin Jones team, whether it's Lindsay, Carly, or Kristen. They come around those 2 guards and will rest there in the top 12. 3rd shot for the meantime. As you see, that stone there right on the button, well protected. And lots of shrapnel out front.
Yeah, Callie's going to start stripping those things off so that she can get to that shot rock.
In the hands of Cassidy Curry, and it's all by itself. And she'll get nothing as she flashes here in 5. So there's the first mistake here in this one. And mistakes you have to limit against this Jones team. So they say that's a lot of curling in a short amount of time. So some of these teams are really, really young. Like the Notting team was pretty young, and this Moore team pretty young. Got to wonder where the fatigue level is as they get into this one. Going to bump the blue and get rid of the yellow, so has 3 blue guards there protecting that one that's in the button. So Moore's going to ask once again to try to remove that some of those rocks in front of the house in a bit of a cleanup mode. See if Cassidy Curry has put that last shot out of her memory. Yeah, she'll peel the yellow and peel the blue, so nice shot and a good bounce back shot for her.
It's one of the things that you get into in terms of physical fitness and ready to go. When you take a look at this, they started curling on Wednesday. We're now Saturday night. For some teams, they could be facing a game for tomorrow. So you take a look at it, it's basically 5 days that you're curling. When they get to the Nationals, what happens is they start on the Saturday, and they're virtually playing 2 games every day. They got 1 day where they're playing 1. It's a marathon when you have to go to there. So that's the reason that physical fitness and pacing yourself and trying to last for the marathon, right?
And also, like if you have like morning draws in those events, making sure that you after your morning draw, whether it's a win or a loss, you pack up quickly, and if you have to play in the evening, have a proper afternoon nap and get well rested too.
Well, I know.
Or try to.
Yeah, I know when we went out to Whitehorse, coming from the east, our first game was at 8 o'clock in the morning, and that was like playing at noon for us, which was great. But when Halifax hosted the Canada Games, those teams from BC, when they had a game at 8 o'clock in the morning, it was like 3 in the morning for them, right? So there are some advantages us being from here in the East Coast. And you go like, oh my gosh. Our problem is when we get the night games, it's the middle of the night.
Yep. Yeah, your mental head's telling you to go to sleep, and even though you're trying to play a game.
Okay. Exactly. You know, if you're the morning person or not.
Sometimes I was always taught that, sometimes maybe your best production is in the morning. A lot of people may not think that, but it depends on the individual, really.
It worked for me. I used to start at 7:30 in the morning. I was off at 3:30, so some people just can't function that early in the morning to go.
You can hear that trying to go hard on this one, and doesn't completely block that other blue one, so
there's a port, but it is a small port.
Yes.
It's going to be testing. So depending on what they want to do is they want to try to go through the port and get it. They can. They want to run the blue one back in to open it up, allow them some access, then they may be able to get 3 of them out of there. It all depends on how comfortable they are playing those angles. But they know what they have to do. They know they have to open it up, because right now the scoring zone is so small, and it's going to be so hard to be able to draw down to it.
Yeah.
So based upon the ice that they've got there, they think that there's a port through, and they can come back and move those rocks back off of there. If they don't make the port, at least what will happen is it'll start clearing off some of the some of the stones.
As you mentioned there, they didn't get through that, but they did remove one of those blues. But opening things up slowly, one rock at a time, is the Callymore team of the CFB Curling Club.
I know I always talk to my teams about it. It says you got to make sure you improve your position. If they come down and hit one of those guards that are out in front, hit it right on the nose, and nothing else moved, that didn't help your team. But if you remove that guard, then you're going to force them to put another guard up, and what happens is you may have improved that position. So to go out and try that, well, that's how we open it up, take a look at the long-term goals for what's going on in the end. They make it through and they double those things off, you look like the hero.
Caitlin Jones over first here in 5. Hoping to get a little bit of a better placement than the previous rock thrown by Clark, and has that one protected a little bit more. Protect that, of course, that second blue one that you see on your screen right now, the one in the button there belonging to Jones. That really, really hard to pick that one out as of right now.
Well, that shot rock's sitting right just, the lead edge is right on the pin. So it's not going to leave much room in the way of scoring. So unless Callie's looking at this, he says, something, we can curl in there. If we bump it back just a fraction, we're sitting in that position, and then we've got their rock as a catcher for ours. So line of delivery and weight is going to be critical for this.
Her jacket may say Stevens on the back, but that definitely is Callymore. And Bill's got his stopwatch going once again, so he'll give us an update on how the ice is running. He's done that throughout the game here. The front end working hard here, Fitzgerald and Curry. Trying to come around. They're going to get any of that one that's in the button. Oh, nice little shot there.
Fortunately, I didn't get the time on it, but
I set you up, and then
I let you down.
That's no worries. sometimes you get a little interested in watching the game and seeing the shot, and what a great shot that is. Thank you, Chuck Calder, for that. Boy, the way these teams are playing, you can see why they are the top two in this junior curling standings. You couldn't put that rock there in a better place unless you even tried to pick it up and then just put it in there. It's just a beautiful shot there by Callie Moore. Things sort of got a little bit loud, and you could hear
just taking
Christian
a bit
Clark.
more ice.
Yeah. Didn't quite hear because, of course, as we said, you got a sheet game going on sheet C.
I'll get the clock on this one.
Caitlin Jones in 5 of Oathammer. And the front end. They've definitely earned themselves a good post-game meal.
I have a 16-4 on that.
16-4. They've let off on it.
So Jones is content to take one, steal one.
Sometimes when you have the rocks like this situation and you have that yellow one there, you've pretty well got your 1 point, maybe your steal, of course. Sometimes you see teams decide just to throw their last one through and say, well, I'm not going to try to, hurt myself in the process because she tries to do something, gets rid of that yellow. She'll be giving up a steal 3 where it's just a steal 1. So, take the safe approach. Oh, yeah, there it is. Time out. So, first look here at our coaches. Andrew Atherton, you'll see him in the jacket. Rob Moore with a black T-shirt on. He'll make his way out. Actually, it's a blue sweatshirt. A little bit colorblind here. Sometimes the colors are starting to mix up. And you can see Rob Moore, very positive influence here on his team, giving them high fives. And of course, has been on the men's spiel. So we're going to eavesdrop on their conversation here, Bill, and see what the teams are thinking and pass it along to our viewers at home.
Oh, so nice.
There's 30 seconds left here, Bill.
See, when you're looking at this type of situation, is you got to look at the risk and return. All right, so your skip's looking at the risk and return. There are some rocks that are on the right-hand side that we're looking down, and they have run-back opportunities. But she's also thrown that draw on the other side, and all she has to do is touch back that blue one, and has an opportunity that she may be able to sit to with her yellow. All right, so it's just a matter of drawing down and moving that blue one back. We don't have an overhead of that. Probably all it has to do is move back 2 or 3 inches.
There's your overhead.
Yeah. All right, so that's the call that Callie had to start off with. It was just the coach that was unsure.
Of course, the coaches themselves can't call the timeout, but they can signal to their players to do that, and then the clock will come to a stop. So,
yeah, the teams have to signal timeout from the ice. So if she comes down and just touches that blue one back, she may be able to get one, and if she's really fortunate, she may be able to get her deuce out of this.
last rock here for Callie Moore out of the CFB Curling Club. Out there all by itself.
I got it as a little bit heavy.
Better to be heavy and, of course, give up the steal of one here in the 5th. So it makes it 3-1 after 5 ends of play. So just give us a little short analysis of what you've thought here so far for the first half of what we've seen.
I think both the teams know what's at stake here, and they've been playing relatively conservative, and they haven't been taking any high risk shots. So there hasn't been a lot of situations where there's been opportunities to score 3 and 4. You take a look at that last end, and what happens is once the guards get up, somebody comes around, and then they start playing on the angles with them. So again, what will happen is it's all that control of those ends. To be able to steal one is just a bonus.
Yep, there's your scores. We head into the 5th end break. Caitlin Jones, 3. Callie Moore, 1.
Turn freeze. Make a double and roll. Or if we bounce off, we can hit the roll on goal. Yeah, it's just like, all right, guys, on those hit and rolls, really on board, 36. Ice me for board. So we got, especially that so straight, so you can't overthrow it, or else it's like, at least, even if we're hacked, we can hold it and maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
About an inch from edge on edge. Yep.
Welcome back to the Lakeshore Curling Club in Lower Sackville, Nova Scotia. Is the 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Championships here on Bell 5 TV1. My name is Dan Hobson alongside Bill Fletcher, and our producer is Chuck Calder. 3-1's where we stand right now as we're into the 6th. Moore was forced to take 1 in the 5th, so Jones has the hammer here and in number 6, throwing the blue stones. So far, a little bit of a defensive matchup here to start. Things were a little bit quiet there for the first couple of ends, and really the offensive juggernaut that I probably think that you will see out of Caitlin Jones hasn't really materialized, and Callie Moore has, you could pretty well say, gone shot for shot, but is still finding herself down by 2 as we play the 6th.
Yeah, that's it's one of those things that you're always playing for the deuce when you have the hammer. They had an opportunity to steal. They had a rock that was in on the forefoot, and they protected it for all that it was worth. There was an opportunity if for the Moore team to actually come down, and they were just a bit heavy on their shot. And that all comes down to that execution. They all know how to play the game, and it all depends on how you execute your shots to get favorable outcomes. What happens was she was just heavy.
Moore with the hammer here and stick at 6 as a result of the steal in 5. She's playing the yellow-handled stones. Nose hit there to lie 1 now for Team Jones.
You'll notice that they're out there playing in the 12-foot. For most teams, that's one of the more difficult areas for the teams to be playing. Simply because the fact that we don't practice out there. Most of our practices, most of the shots that we go after are usually in on the 8-foot, and as a result, we don't practice out there in the 12. So some teams find it extremely difficult to play out there in the 12-foot.
And what also runs into a little bit of difficulty is depending on ice conditions, some of those wings or outside, as you mentioned, can run maybe a little bit more straight, so there's more curl towards the middle than it is on the outside. So thanks for a little bit of difficulty when they start getting those shots towards the outside and the wings.
Well, generally what happens is when teams are playing, the running surface actually gets an hourglass type of figure. They're noisy out there. And so as a result, what happens is if you're trying to play stuff that's straight down on the 12-foot, you've got to play over some ice that hasn't been played over for a while. So in areas where it's quite frosty, you can see that distinct line. Now, we're not behind the ice surface itself, so it's hard to see, but most of the game is you're playing from the center line, you go out, and so as you get that typical hourglass figure. So to throw at stuff that's out on the outside, some teams struggle with that. It's something that you have, as a team, you got to practice those. So you become more and more comfortable with those.
Getting a little bit closer there towards the center line as some of the rocks are moving in from the wings outside of the house to more of the middle of the sheet.
You may see this end go, up and down the ice again, and look at what happens on it.
Piece of the rock, and the shooter will go out.
Hopefully they can find their pace again, so they can find where the ice is, find where the draw weight is, look at how the ice behaves, and then get on with the game.
Cassidy Curry. Fitzgerald and Stevens pretty well as soon as the rock released right on it. More as you see as the handout. As it will come to a stop and right along the tee line in between the 8 and the 12-foot area. The veteran junior curler Kristen Clark here. You can hear that they're already trying to hold the line here. Burgess ladies again earning their pay in this one. Gets a piece of the rock and
No, that's
front 8.
Every time
Lying 1.
I saw you guys saying that.
They're at the 5th in break of the guys' game, so you're getting a chance to hear and eavesdrop a little bit on that conversation.
Are there any spots that
It's 3-1 as they are, as I mentioned, in the 5th in break.
No.
And it's Team Manual over Abraham.
Not like those sheets over there where we overthrow the couple.
If we were like middle of the button going to the
Gets a piece of the blue.
Right.
Jones trying to scrub it out, and it will stay in the back 12, so they'll have to make a play on it.
Okay. Yeah. So
As a coach, when you see that your time clock has 20 and 22 minutes respectively for both of these teams here, you pretty well must be happy because you're pretty well on pace knowing you're going to have a lot of time towards the end when you probably need it the most.
Yeah. These guys are playing quick. There's no doubt about it. I made the comment earlier to you, Dan, about where the men's game was versus where the women's game was. And the women were at least half an end ahead. And traditionally, that's not what we normally say. I can't tell you the number of times that was the complaint that says, well, the girls' game is slow, the girls' game is slow. And what happens is these guys are playing at an incredible pace. They've got all kinds of time that's left. You take a look at it, if you think about what they started out with, and they started out with 38, I think it was. So you take a look at somewhere around 19 is at the halfway, and you go, oh my gosh, they've got all kinds of time that's available.
Yeah, you said we're moving right along. Here we are in the Skip Rocks here in 6 already.
See, there's no hesitation because what happens is after that 5th end break, they've just decided they want to find out what the ice is like. They run the mop over and clean it, but they don't repebble. And so as a result, what happens is they got it cleaned off. So we'll play this end, go up and down the ice. It's a no-brainer, really, really, really quick. So when we get into some of those later ends, and all of a sudden you get the critical situations that if I make this, we advance. If I miss this, then we're out. Now all of a sudden the pressure, that mental pressure is on. Here what happens is they've been playing up and down. They've been just exchanging hits, or they hit and roll out. Well, broom goes down pretty quick. Skip's gone.
Yeah, not much in terms of thinking here so far.
No.
How impressed are you with this Callie Moore team that just, haven't really lost their composure and maybe one missed shot throughout the entire game against this team, and it just, they're about as cool as a cucumber, just, almost like ice water running through the veins.
They've been in a few competitions where the pressure's been on them, and it's one of those things that I'm gonna say that they're expected to lose, and so therefore there's less pressure on them. If they lose, well, they were supposed to lose because you take a look at the caliber of the team that they're playing. But what happens is every now and then, all of a sudden you win some of those games. You go like, oh my gosh, like they're up, they're learning all the time, and they're getting better as they get older. I mentioned in one of the earlier broadcasts, this is a late maturing game. And what happens is some of your top curlers are not the top curlers until they get into their 40s. And most athletes are done. Any other sport, they're done. But what happens is you get somebody that's in the late 30s or they're getting into the 40s, is that's when they're at the peak of their game. You take a look at some of the top teams in Canada. Look at Colleen Jones. She's not young. Sorry, Colleen. But that's one of the things that happens is this is a really late maturing sport. So as these athletes come out of a junior team and they start going up to the adult teams, they start playing in lower positions, and they work their way up. That people that came out of juniors maybe 5 and 6 years ago are starting to get up into the back ends on those teams. I mean, I coached Kendall Thompson, and Kendall Thompson is now skipping his own team in the men's. Stuart Thompson was the same way, and he played for Mark Dacey. You know, and it's one of those things that I had them when they were 18 years old. But now what happens is when they went up and they started playing in the adult leagues, well, they were leads. They were leads or they were seconds. And they were top-ranked juniors coming out of the program. And it's not until they mature to get that maturity and the things that go on and being able to understand that pressure to be able to perform at those levels.
Last rock here for Callie Moore. Here in 6. Wants to hit and roll out to carry the hammer into 7. And successfully does that. So we'll stay at 3-1. Heading to end number 7. (3-1) still as they are back playing there, the 6th end of that one. So you're saying about half an end. Well, they're pretty well 1 in behind from where we are right now. 3-1, Manuel over Abraham. That's on sheet C. Vince Williams, John Seidman have the call there for that one. As we welcome everybody back here to the Lakeshore Curling Club. It is the 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Championships here in Bell 5 TV1. My name is Dan Hobson, joined by Bill Fletcher, our producer Chuck Calder, TV1 cameras and crew here in beautiful Lower Sackville, Nova Scotia. We've been here since Wednesday, and we've enjoyed every minute of it. And at this time, I want to thank, of course, the volunteers that have put a lot of time here into this championships. Without volunteers, events could not be really done successfully, so we say thank you to them, and we want to thank everybody on the committee there for being so welcome to us, making us feel at home, and basically providing us with the proper tools there to for us to do our job, and we've enjoyed every minute of it. And you know, as we wind down here, of course, what's up here for grabs is a championship hardware. It's covered up with a white sheet right now, but it could be going to Caitlin Jones' team if they come away with a victory here in this one. So win, and they are the provincial champs. If they lose, well, all of a sudden they'll have to play this Callie Moore team one more time. Moore pretty well has to run the table. It's for her, it's basically almost like a playoff series, and she's down 3-0. And she'll have to win them all, run the table to all come back and take the championship away there from Jones. So Jones came in 5-0. Moore came in at 3-2. Lindsay Burgess. Family has made the trip from Truro down to watch this one. And you could hear that they are going hard. They are trying to get the line. The two veterans there with some good work and get it right close to the center line area to bury that blue one. And look at that, right on cue. Bang on, as they say.
So it looks like we're going to see a few more rocks in play this end. So although the Jones team has one that's buried in that 4 foot, we're gonna see the Moore team come down and try to freeze around it, get close, group those rocks all together, give them some opportunities to jam, and therefore score.
They've had a couple of nice freezes here in this one, and just a little bit light as it will bump that blue one, so the Jones team can get rid of that yellow one without any possible worries about losing that blue one, as that one was just a little bit heavy there off the hands of Taylor Stevens. Cassidy Curry, pardon me. And you could hear that they are going hard here on this one.
Well, they played a comer out on it. They're not adverse to having some guards out front.
And
It's that
now,
proverbial question, is that Blue Rock in a position that it can score? And if you say yes, then what happens is you're going to protect it for all it's worth.
staggered blue guards now. Scoring area starting to shrink. And you can see that they're talking about the options here. Thing is, with no yellow handled stones along the center line area, that's any run back would be definitely dangerous, because then all of a sudden you're just basically helping your opposition.
So they decided that obviously they're going to come down, try to tap that blue one back, and roll their yellow shooter away, leaving their own stone as that shot rock.
Curry was heavy on the freeze attempt on her last throw, but she's all over those blue handled stones and pushes it towards the center line and does expose that blue one there that's in the back four. That may be the only thing that was good news of that, as you see right there. So it's opened up a little bit of that side of the sheet there for them.
So it looks like Caton's going to come down and try to put another blue one in there in front on the 12 foot. So they're just going to be drawing it down. See if they can get a corner freeze on the yellow one to take away a straight raise.
This one looks a little heavy. They bump that yellow one, and will bump it enough to get the shot. No, it will come to a stop and freeze to that yellow one. So they got the weight on. So now, of course, Team Jones' first and third shot here. Must be exhausting when you're in a curling game and it just seems like you're in catch-up mode, end after end after end.
When you're that competitive curler, it's that adrenaline rush. I've been in a 1-0 game, and it's been nothing but adrenaline from the first rock to the last rock and in every end. And it's one of those things that you know that every shot's critical. When you get out into one of those high-scoring games, then, oh, well, it doesn't matter. But when you get out into these things where it's that tight game and everything matters, those are the things you get concerned with, and the adrenaline will carry you a long way. But it's one of those things about how to control your emotions as well.
They just pushed that blue one, and push it more towards the button area. Kristen Clark here in N7. Going hard, and you could hear them. And it will rest. Staggered's blue handle belonging to Jones. And things are starting to shrink once again. So the only thing that's going really well here for the Moore team is that they are second shot right now, but as I see, the ports are very small, nothing for rocks really to get through, and starting to get a little clustered and bunched up there in the front. Taylor Stevens Helps their cause out a bit. She'll move one of those blue ones that was right along the center line, remove one of the blues as well, and open things up a bit. Good big shot from her. She's had a lot here so far in this one. It's one of those ones you kind of unfortunate they don't have like curling statistics on this one at this level, because I imagine those two are pretty well high in percentages. They have made some really good shots and they have not been easy. Some of them have been real difficult for sure.
Yeah, that's one of my jobs as a coach, is I sit down and do statistics. I've had curlers say, I want to know what my numbers are, and then I get the other ones that say, no, I'm distracted by what my numbers are. But what it does is it gives me insight into what they're doing and what they're calling and how they're performing. So I'm a numbers guy. I like doing the stats. And as a result, what happens is that gives me some indication on how things are going. Here what happens is you take a look at what the tendencies are. I've also kept stats on other teams and taking a look at what they can do and what they have difficulty doing. So you take a look here, there's an opportunity. She can come down. If she bumps the blue one, she may be able to just touch the yellow one back. But it also means that if they play it in the other direction, they could tap the yellow one back onto the blue. So there's all kinds of little opportunities over here just based upon those angles. The angles right now aren't real good, but they're not bad either.
A couple of shots ago, this wasn't even possible. There was a lot of rocks in front of the house, and of course, Taylor Stevens over her last throw opened things up there, just moving that blue one just off enough, just to create even a little bit of a bigger port for them to go through to make plays on these shot rocks.
Yeah. Remember how earlier we were talking about the clocks and everything? Is now we're getting into those ends where things are going to be really, really critical. And so as a result, we take a look at, well, what's the shot going to be on this? So Taylor's coming down that if we hit this blue one right, that means that we're going to leave our yellow one sitting out in front that may or may not move the yellow one that's actually in the rings.
Curry did something with her hand, saying a little bit of hotness, and can't get through that port and bump one of the blues into the top 12 just on the edge of it. So after doing very good on her first or second, not so much, and
she's just on the wrong side of the inch for that one. She had good weight. She was going to move. She was going to move some granite. But it's one of those things when you start looking at that, is how can we get ourselves into scoring position? Because the rocks aren't scored until all the rocks are finished.
Caitlin Jones out of the Halifax Curling Club. Not much done here by Lindsay or Carly yet. Just looks like they're going to try to shut that path down once again after Callie Moore team opened it up a bit. And once again, they plugged up that port and plugging up the scoring path. Somebody doesn't sound too happy over there in the men's game. That's still 3-1 Manuel over Abraham as they play the sixth. Team Moore have already used one of their 2 timeouts here, and we talk about how quick the play was, and this is really helpful right now. As you say, we're getting into the crucial stages here. May not be able to win the game, of course, here in the 7th inning, but you definitely can lose it if you got to tread waters really carefully.
Her yellow rock is in a good position that she can promote it. And there's a catcher that's back in there behind it. So it's a matter of how do they get in to be able to move that yellow rock. So they can tap it up. There's no sense throwing the high heat, because if you throw the high heat, you can risk giving up a bundle. If you give up a bundle at this stage in the game, it's going to be a real uphill battle. So if they come down and tap the yellow one into a scoring position, and force Caitlin to have to make a difficult shot. And then you never know that you may have an opportunity to get your dues. Because there's still another yellow rock that's out front that's available if they have to tap it up.
Giving it the big weight here is Callie Moore here in N7. Veteran Jones team has given this young team all they could handle, so they are just going to open things up and get some rock movement and try to get that path opened up. They opened it up there a few shots ago. It got closed quickly by Team Jones, and it's back open up once again. The Jones team, one of the Burgess ladies, as you see, right in the center of your screen there, coming down. It's Carly. Giving them some. This Moore team giving this veteran team lots to talk about here on this shot. So we'll put your coaching hat on, maybe even playing hat. Where do you want to put this one if you're Team Jones right now?
Right on the center line, just out in front of the eyes. The blue rock that it's exposed on the left-hand side can only go into that yellow rock, and it can't go anywhere. The worst case scenario is if you put your guard over on the left-hand side, it leaves your yellow rock open to a tap back for them to score. So for putting on a guard that's going to protect that yellow rock from being promoted is an ideal type of situation.
You can hear that they're going hard, and once again, this front end earning their stripes this afternoon, earning their post-game meal. They've been working hard. It's been pretty well team shots there for the Jones foursome out of the Halifax Curling Club. Couldn't ask for a better, what could be final, of course. Jones has to win. It's a triple knockout, and the Moore team right now at 3-2. And they're taking their time looking and assessing things here.
If the angles are right, they may be able to get just to the nose of that yellow to tap it back for a shot. But they're basically going to have to play just a tap back.
It's really all they got, and that little hole to come through to do it.
Yep. It's a tough way to go and score one, but that's just the nature of this team playing against this Jones team. Is they had all kinds of rocks in play. They were able to guard and set those guards up, and they were able to capitalize on some of these misses.
Last rock here for Callie Moore here in end number 7. Her father standing back close to those pictures in her screen right now. He's a pretty cool cucumber. Now they're going to try to get through that port. They've succeeded on that one. Did she bump it enough?
So close.
Yeah, it didn't steal one.
That's the only opportunity that she had, was to be able to come in and tap that yellow one back.
Makes it 4-1 as we head to the 8th. So now the defending champions 2 ends away here from claiming the team's 5th, but it will be the first here for Lindsay Burgess. First for Caitlin with this team, but it will be a 5th for Carly Burgess and Kristen Clark. And it was at this juncture of their game against Team Notting where they pretty well shut the door and didn't allow this opposition to generate anything in terms of offense. We'll see if that's the case here in the remaining stages of this one at the 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Championships here in Bell 5 TV1. Alongside Bill Fletcher, my name is Dan Hobson, and the TV1 crew gladly here at the Lakeshore Curling Club. It's pretty simple here. Win for Caitlin Jones, and you are the provincial champion. And for Callie Moore, she has to pretty well take it one game at a time and has to run the table and win 3 straight. Not the easiest of tasks.
So you're going to see a lot more rocks in play as they try to scramble to try to get that big end. Scoring a deuce would help. You don't have to go all out for 3, but as long as you score your deuce, you're back into the game. You're down by 1 and still got 2 ends to play.
Of course, to do that, they need to kind of do come arounds or even free guards. So they'll come around this one and use that blue stone that was just thrown by the Jones team and come around behind it. And of course, you see Jones going out there to play it because we're into the free guard zone. She can play her own stones.
She can play her own stones.
Yeah, so she could get that removed and maybe run things back. See what Lindsay Burgess does here. Tried to do the run back, but that will push towards the side. It's a corner guard that they can use to help out the cause here for more, of course.
Yep. So here's Callie going around the corner guard, trying to use that to her advantage. So you play around the corner guard, sacrifice the open one, and then you can play to the open side in an effort to score your deuce.
Kate Fitzgerald. And so far, Curry and Stevens, not a brush. Jones will try to sweep it out towards the back. It will dig in and stay in the back 12. Deep and not really helpful that rock was.
So this would be an attempt to double out the yellows.
As you see, they're pretty well into cleanup mode. Up by 3, don't really want to give this aggressive young team much in terms of momentum or anything offensively, and there it is. Count them, 2 yellow stones going out on 1 shot there by Carly Burgess, and the shooter sticking around in the 12-foot to lie 1. You have a funny feeling that, this is like, and I mean, they've gone through this. Of course, we talk about the previous team, which was Mary Fay, of course, and they've changed over the years. You think that maybe Callie Moore, maybe the next up-and-coming Team Jones or Team Fay, Team Clark.
You take a look at it, and that's a normal evolution. I know I coached Katie Lyons and Danielle Parsons, and the next thing you know is you take a look at the next go around on Canada Games, and you take a look at that. You take a look at that level, and you see those girls up, playing in the women's level, and so this time with Canada Games is you've got Callie that's out there, you've got Isabel that's out there, and you've got there's one other team as well. The Nodding team is a prime example. As I remember, we curled against the Nodding team, and they were probably 12 years old. And now you take a look at them, they're 16, and what happens is they develop and they develop and develop. The problem that we've always got historically is you get these curlers that develop in the little small towns, and they take them so far, and then they go off to university and they come into the city. And you take a look at that development that, now they're in the city and going to school, that they no longer play for our club. I had Jill Mauser, who's now Jill Brothers. I coached her team, and I had Terry Lake, who's now Terry Udley, and both of them were here in the city. And I had one of the girls, Caroline, that was up at Acadia, and I had Megan, which was the other curler, was down in Liverpool. She was the grade 12 student. And you go, even our practices were road trips. It's tough when you have to go through and do that.
It's kind of amazing when they decided they will, of course, change it at the upper levels there, where you were allowed to have one person out of the province. I didn't really think that was really advantageous, but they're proving me wrong on that one. Of course, the prime example of that is Brent Lang playing for Kevin Cooey.
Well, yeah, but that's at the adult level. What happens in here is when you get the juniors, you get some people that come in that are coming to university. And because of the fact that they're at university here in Nova Scotia, they're eligible to play for Nova Scotia. We had a curler that came down from the Yukon. She came down to go to university at Mount St. Vincent, and she ended up going to the Nationals with Meredith Doyle. Right? And she was from the Yukon, but it's because that she was at school. And we'll get students that will go up to New Brunswick for school, but are eligible still to curl in Nova Scotia, but they're also eligible because they're in residence to curl for a team in New Brunswick. And, it's one of those things that when you get into the juniors, there is still that residency rule. Other places when you start looking at it in terms of the adults, you get Brett Gallant that went out to Newfoundland. It's hard to play for Gaucher, right? And it's all those things that you get into those residence things and those residence rules. So John Morris was the same way because he was in Alberta, but yet he would end up curling for BC. It all depend on the residency rule. Well, he was a fireman. He's working in BC.
You talked about Meredith Doyle. Of course, her third on that team was Beth Rocher. Then she became Beth Iskew.
Yep.
And was the third for Heather Netherwin there for Team Alberta.
Yep. Lainey Peters is still out there and curling at a high level. And I remember when she curled for Nova Scotia as well. So, and it's just one of those things that you move around and at various places. Sometimes it's school. And I know there's some athletes that have offers to go to universities out west that turn it down because they want to stay here. But it was, they would be eligible to go out and curl for those provinces because they're actually registered as students.
Boy, that is just a couple of inches shy of being a perfect shot. They're so close. They've had a couple of good freezes, and the last couple, they've just been so close. Maybe the freeze, there's just no room for error. It has to be perfect. But they do have a nice little come around and do have some protection for the meantime, but they look like they're going to remove the guard there and open that up there.
Run it back and try to pick the yellow one out.
That's
Leave
option.
the 2 blues.
Yep. Playing the run back here in end 8, Caitlin Jones. Actually, just removed that. So it's what they classify possibly as the curling audible. Open that up there.
Yep.
More with the hammer here in 8. As you see, nowhere really to hide. Unless Jones Foursome are really good at peeling and can really shut offenses down. Any chance of scoring, they have done it here throughout the championships pretty well helpful in their 5-0 record. This is one of those teams that you could probably tell with Callymore. They're probably a little bit shaky, maybe a little bit nervous on the first day, losing 11-9 to Notting, and basically it was a one loss, all of a sudden 1-2, and really on the bubble of whether you got this far, and then the pull off 2 wins against Carson out of the Windsor Curling Club, and once again another win over Notting out of Bridgewater. As Curry's going hard on this one, head down. And that will come to a stop.
That may offer some protection. We haven't seen the angle.
Looks more like it's helping that blue that's a little bit back there, but
And it looks like she can get to the nose of that and tap the yellow one back and sit 3 on 3 blues.
that's why this one really, that previous shot, of course, had to be right onto the lid, right pretty well stuck, glued to that blue one. And
she's taking the option that she's going to hit this on the center line side. She's going to throw some weight at it. So what happens is she's going to spill those out, whether the shooter stays or not. Trying to limit Callie to 1 point. She's not going to take the chance on the jam or to rack up on the guard. So.
well, contact time.
That's what it looks like. Somebody's got a problem with the contact.
Just takes the extra time there to clean the path. That's the last thing you need, is all of a sudden seeing things blurry as you try to throw this stone here in end number 7.
Or to have your contact pop out in front of the rock.
Going from a bad to a worse situation. Picks out the yellow, takes out the blue as well. The shooter will roll to the side, and you could hear a nice shot, Caitlin, as they've had a fan base that they've been here since the opening throw and pretty well sat in the same seats. You don't tell me that curling fans are superstitious. The same seats, same rows, same lineup.
When you go to the Nationals, you put your flag over the back of the chairs, and that's where you sit all the time.
Until somebody removes that flag and puts their own there, and then all of a sudden you got
they
war.
They all love that Nova Scotia flag, and they all want our Southwester hats.
Yeah, Selena Thomas, one of our broadcast colleagues who worked on these, was talking about that. We were talking about the amount of fans here. Well, we'll get to that story after this final stone here from Callie Moore here in end number 8. Having to draw for her single point. Front end going hard here, Fitzgerald and Curry. They're saying, oh, they don't want to be too light. And it will be a steal of 2, 6-1. They didn't want to be light, as we're going to head to the 9th, and the teams are going to have a little bit of a sidebar. 6-1. heading to 9. So we'll continue to play on. And that's when when all of a sudden maybe the nerves sort of catch up, you get this close and things start to get a little bit tight, so the players may get a little bit tight and come up short. And as we see, they're in shutdown mode. They're going to throw this one right through on their first one here. May not be good for the percentages, but that's what the team wants.
Actually, those shots don't even go into your percentages.
They don't count?
Nope. They do not count on a throw through.
That's an interesting tidbit of news. Learn something new every day about this sport. Non-stop learning.
No, that's how you pad your statistics. They're all throw throughs. No, they didn't. Those don't go into your stats at all.
Corner guard there by Moore. And even before it comes to a stop,
they're not wasting any time, are they?
Yeah, Lindsey Burgess with the Dan Hobson special, throwing it through.
Well, they don't want the Roxham playing. What happens with the free guard zone?
They basically would be more of a hinder to them, so just get rid of them.
Definitely a hinder, so you can throw it through. Some teams will play the tick, but where that rock was off the center line, then there's no percentages in that.
This one may look a little bit hot here as we are into end number 9 here at the 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Championships here on Bell 5 TV 1. Team Jones wins. They win the provincial championship, and they have a comfortable 6-1 lead as we are here in the 9th. Moore with hammer throwing the yellow stones. 4-3, sheet C there. Abraham over Manuel as they play the 8th. Carly Burgess peels the yellow stone, shooter goes, so welcome to Peel City.
Oh, exactly. Jones' team isn't going to want any rocks around. They're going to keep it as clean as they can. Callie, on the other hand, is going to try to junk it up the most that she can. She needs rocks out in front.
Guard time in Peel City is where we're at here at 9. And you think of it, this Jones team took control of this one in the 4th end. Getting 2, and after Moore was forced to 1 in the 2nd end, and it's been a long row of goose eggs, and of course Moore is the yellow-handed stone, and there you see it. That one little point there in N2 so far is all the offense that she's been able to muster in this one. So they'll remove the yellow-handled stone. So one lonely rock and play outside of the house. Long guard.
The boys can go.
Cassidy Curry going to put a corner guard on the other side of the sheet here. It's a couple of long guards.
So she'll hit the high one and try to roll over closer to the other yellow if she can. She can double them out, but at least she's got her rock going over to that other side.
Yelling As soon as it released her hand here, was Jones. Pretty well, almost automatic as guard removed once again, and seeing the look like on Moore's face here, just says, well, you know, the thing is that we gave a lot of good teams a run for their money here at the championships, and this Jones team just went through the 6 teams that were here unscathed. But this Moore team gave them a run for their money, and they sort of like started off slow out of the starting block. Had a little bit of momentum, winning 2 in a row to get here. But they may see that their momentum may just run out of gas here, playing this veteran team. So for junior championships here at this level, could be seeing the final ends here of Kristen Clark playing that, as we mentioned earlier, looking to go to the women's competitive side and try to compete at the Nova Scotia Scotties next year. So when you have that type of thing going on, the team comes together knowing that well, this could be one of the final times that they actually play together.
Well, it's interesting as you work your way up through the age groups. If you are just a U21, this is your season. It's done, right? So what happens is if this Jones team didn't win, their season's over and it's just December. The Moore team now has Canada game trials. They have the U18s, and there may be some players around there that are eligible for the U15. So there's still opportunities. There's still some mix. So there are still some provincial events that are there. But as you start getting into the older ones, then what happens is your season's over. Now, though, what happens is they're allowing some of the younger teams to be able to compete in the Scotties playdowns. So for some, that may give them some extension to their season. But junior season's heavy in October and November, and then you'll get some events depending on whether when you're in high school, you'll get the events where it's the U18s and playing in those types of events. Team I coached previously, we went down to Boston, Massachusetts, and played in the Spiel down in Boston. So that was interesting because there's only 7 sheets of ice in the state of Massachusetts, and we were looking at 4 of them. Cape Cod has a 3-sheeter, and that's it. But they use an entirely different system for selecting their national teams because they identify athletes, and those athletes then go to school for their sport. And then the curling goes up to I think it's Wisconsin, and they start playing and identifying their athletes from there, and they'll play against teams in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. So just a different way of doing it. Newfoundland, lots of times they do a selection process to giving more and more of their athletes an opportunity to grow. Here what happens is we select our teams and we talk about our team dynamics. These are 4 kids that practically live together for the curling season, and some of them practically live together in the off season as well, right? And that's just part of the team dynamics.
Look says it all there as Moore not too happy as that one came up short. Walked away with a little bit of disgust right there was the skip here from the CFB Curling Club.
Yeah, that's that competitive edge that comes out, and sometimes it shows. Sometimes we try to control it. Sometimes it works. But they're kids.
nice little shot there. There is Brian Rayfuse. That's a gentleman you know very well. Of course, Coach Dalhousie last year. Been the ice, taking care of the ice here. Has the hat on in the back. Fantastic job by Brian, and a lot of short hours to sleep, 3 or 4 hours worth of sleep, but fantastic job, and a great gentleman,
And always has a story for you.
especially like yesterday, they had a little bit of an issue and they couldn't play the games that were scheduled for the 8 o'clock last night. So they had to basically put a halt to everything and start fresh here 9 o'clock this morning. So the schedule, I mean, has made this really tough. This will be like the
It's third game
third
today.
game, yes, for the teams. I was thinking that. I was hesitant because I wasn't too sure myself, but it really is. When you think of it, it is their third game there today, and that's a heck of a toll. Final stone here for Callymore in number 9. She wants her mates to come and get off that stone. Now they get back on once again. Pretty well hits. And rolls to the 4-foot area and handshakes. Your 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Champions in the female side. The team of Caitlin Jones, Lindsay Burgess, Carly Burgess, and Kristen Clark, coached by Andrew Atherton of the Halifax Curling Club. 5-time provincial champions, and they have a chance to go to nationals to represent Nova Scotia with the 6-1, 6-2 win here this evening here at the Lakeshore Curling Club. And there they are, 4 happy ladies. And pretty well the same song and dance that Kristen Clark and Carly Burgess have done before. Then they'll get a chance to get some hardware later on here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, they'll be good representatives for the province at the nationals. You know, they're a proven team, and they curl well.
And for Team Callymore, a team of the future, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear a lot from them. And, they gave this veteran team all they could handle here. And they, of course, as I said, are a team of the future. So we're going to have, of course, the championship presentation here in a couple of moments. So we're going to take a little break, and we'll return here with the closing ceremonies and the championship presentation here at the 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Championships. Once again, congratulations to the Halifax Curling Club's Caitlin Jones, Kristen Clark, Carly Burgess, and Lindsay Burgess, your 2017 champions. And we will be back in just a couple moments with the presentation.